All right, what's up, guys? We're here for episode 2 of This Round's on Me. I'm here with the Canadian hotshot Sloopdoop. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Tired but good. And we're here to sit down and talk about Flesh and Blood. Small backstory: we met each other at the San Jose World Tournament in an Airbnb right behind the venue, which was cool. Fun weekend of Flesh and Blood, and it was cool meeting you, and you're cool in real life too.
I appreciate that. I could say the exact same about you.
Nice.
I don't think I'll ever forget us bonding over pizza the way that we did.
I am
Right
sure.
at the end there.
I am sure a huge fan of pizza. So much so that it'll go to the same place 3 or 4 days in a row.
Yeah,
Yeah,
some excellent pie there.
lovely vibes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first thing we're going to talk about today is what got you into Flesh and Blood, because this game has really taken off over the last few years, and
Mhm.
you've sort of been a content creator from the start. So what exposed you to Flesh and Blood?
So I actually got into the game about 2 years into its existence. It was between Crucible first and Monarch, and it was literally right as the game was starting to have its first giant price spike with all the investors and collectors. I was a Magic player for like 10 years, and I'm talking, I was like a hardcore fan. I started off as casual, would like buy a card here or there, a pack here or there. But as the years went on, it became my number one hobby, and I spent hours and hours and hours every day just like building decks, playing the game. It became the big thing. When Magic started to go to shit because of the company mismanaging it, I started to look for other games. Remembered about Flesh and Blood, thanks to the professor actually getting a spoiler for Monarch and talking about it. So I checked it out, found out it had multiplayer, and my friends and I were commander players for Magic, so we just decided to give it a try. And I had actually taken a month break from Magic, one of many breaks, and got back into it and decided, you know what? I've always thought about running a YouTube channel, so why don't I just make it and maybe that'll make Magic fun again. But again, within like a month, I made a handful of videos and I was like, I don't like this game anymore. I just don't like what it is anymore. So when I tried Flesh and Blood, made a video, got more views because there were so few people making Flesh and Blood videos, got
Mhm.
more views than any of my Magic stuff, and I just never stopped making Flesh and Blood videos. And within several months, it sold all my Magic cards for like 12 grand, and away I went.
Wow. That's a pretty big leap. That's some serious commitment, like burning the boats of Magic and coming over to Flesh and Blood.
Mhm.
That's cool. So the content creation, you said you made some Magic videos, and then yeah, you switched over to Flesh and Blood, and that's where like it just kind of stayed consistent, stayed running. Um, did you kind of have to like find your style, or did you kind of like always have that kind of like humorous, scripted, like edited content?
So I started out like anybody filming with a camera, like on my phone. For a little while, I bought like a $80 condenser mic, and I would connect my phone via USB, for like Droid Cam or whatever, like as a webcam because I didn't have a webcam, and would use the microphone. And it was the most awful audio and visual quality imaginable. It was long, it was rambly. I put no effort in. And I even had a video that was a what to buy starter guide, which I have a newer version, which is now over a year old. But when I put it out, it was all the previous one was a year old. And that was a video that, even for my tiny channel, had like 10,000 views. But the quality was so bad, I actually unlisted and then deleted it. And I made the new one because it was just like, I don't want people watching that video and thinking that's what my content is. So no, long story short, no. I started out, and as I kept making videos, I realized like, why not just try and continue to do it and get better. The game is small, so if I really get good at it, in 5 years from now, I could have a pretty sizable channel, because as the game grows, if I make good stuff, people are going to want to watch it.
Definitely. And yeah, you can see like they have the more international audience now. The game's blown up in Japan and other
Mhm.
countries. And it was getting pretty big just in America, Canada, and a few European countries. And now it just seems like it's going to be worldwide for hopefully years.
Mhm.
So, are you going to Vegas?
I am not going to Vegas.
Oh,
Baltimore cost me a lot. Vegas is just too much.
yeah. I do want to talk about Baltimore. Like I mentioned earlier, we did meet at San Jose
Mhm.
at the infamous tent for the World Tournament, and people talk shit on the tent, but it was fun. It was kind of cool. I'm from the Midwest. We don't see stuff like that, so.
Mhm.
But I can't imagine taking a 20-hour flight and then seeing a tent. So that might be a little bit different. But
Uh, I mean, it was my first event was Worlds, so I didn't really think too much of it. I was just too busy getting to know everybody and getting pulled around a million different ways because I was there all on my own. So, like, I mean, obviously I stayed with you and Del and Vera, but for the
mm,
like, I didn't have any like close friends with me that I traveled with, you know. But Baltimore was the event itself was much better.
yeah, that was run by was that an SCG run event? I can't remember the.
Star City Games, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that seems that's I was watching the coverage and that they were moving. Swiss was moving and they had the cool top player feature match area with the raised seats.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think they took a lot of lessons learned from San Jose, and yeah, it's a shame I couldn't make it to Baltimore. That seemed like kind of like the nicest, smoothest, biggest event so far. I don't know what it did numbers wise, but it just seemed like turning the page on like what these high level events are going to be like going forward.
Yeah, it was a big event, honestly. I think I think the calling alone was over like just at about 1,000 players.
Hmm.
And that was while the Pro Tour was still going on and there were still other events. I didn't enter the calling, I just entered the Ultimate Pit Fight event.
Hmm.
But I literally threw my first game. I was playing Valda. I had 9 blocks still in my equipment, hadn't used anything because I'm like, it's UPF, I'll leave it till the very late game when I need it, otherwise I'll die. And I threw the game. I just let him kill me because James White was facing somebody with the Rudy Gemkeeper deck, and a bunch of people were over there watching. And I'm just like, okay, I just want to go join the crowd. So I threw the game and just walked over there. I didn't go for the gold foil.
Well, yeah, that Rudy game versus James White. I think that's when's that going to happen again? So that's probably a spectacle to
Mhm.
see. That deck was like freaking
Oh, it was great. It was
like
hilarious.
what, like 2 feet high almost. That
Yeah,
seemed
yeah. It
nuts.
was try them putting the cracked baubles from Shitty Christmas Present underneath was
Oh my
hilarious to
gosh.
watch.
Oh my gosh. That's cool. So,
Mhm.
do you have your sights set on anything as a player this year?
My sight set on a player this year is to really cement myself with a couple different heroes that I really like and just keep getting better at them and really try and learn the more nuanced aspects of this game, like really get into the nitty-gritty details both with playing and even with my own content, and just like thinking a bit deeper about this game because one of the things that I've recognized is it is a very different card game to most others. The fact that it's not a resource building game, it fundamentally plays so much different than something like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh, even Pokemon. And so I want to just have a better fundamental understanding of the flows of Flesh and Blood. Even the simple fact of drawing up to your hand at the end of turns, and how that affects your deck building process, as well as how that builds your curve and everything else. Like it's just not, it doesn't translate from any other game I've ever played. And so I really want to try and get better specifically at this game. Um,
I think that's good advice for most players, especially if your life is kind of like busier or like you got things to
mhm,
do. Really, when you hone in on like one or two heroes or just like a specific like talent or class, it is a game of those weird details, right? Like now you got stuff from like Banner Zone, you got allies, you got equipment, all kinds of weird equipment interactions, and there's so many games where you're playing in an armory and you saw that you like left one damage on the table, either like on offense or like blocking, and you're
mhm,
like, oh, like I simply could have just did this instead of this, and I would have blocked one more or something like that. And then like 25 minutes later, you lose 1-0, and you're like, oh,
mhm,
so like it can really come down to that, and not only in like around a Swiss, but like in those final games, reps with the deck and knowing what you can and can't do, what's in your graveyard, what do you have left, what against this hero specifically across from you is gonna like play at full value and give you that extra edge and like that extra pressure. So like the most satisfying thing is like when you play a card and your opponent's just like and they're just like shuffling their hand and stuff, like putting that pressure on.
Hmm. Yeah, I think one other thing too that I really want to get better at is deck building as well. Because one of the things I was just thinking about is new prisms coming out, and
Mhm.
I couldn't wait, so I printed off everything except for the one, Marvel that they'd sent me, and I made a deck. And I did win the one game I played with it. My buddy was playing Bolton, and I did win. I fatigued him out because
Wow.
turns out being able to just pay 2 and flip a figment over and gain 4 life at any time is pretty good. Like it can save you in a lot of instances. That ward 4 is better than you'd think.
That's
Um,
true.
so I fatigued him out, but the deck was just awful. And I was trying to play it like a mix of old Prism and the Angels, and it just doesn't work. Like they're
Mm.
really not a similar, like the same thing. Like even the card that gives like go again and then your next Angel attack gets a boost.
Mhm.
I'm realizing like I I struggle with taking cards that I haven't played before and actually being able to fundamentally understand how they should be played and played together. And I think that's just a natural thing. You build a deck, then you have to play it to test it out. But I really, unless I'm very familiar with the class or those cards already, then I really struggle to like throw something together myself. And that's something I want to improve at immensely, is because like I like to build decks, and especially if I ever want to do deck techs, like I want to get better at the actual construction of them.
Yes. Those new cards look pretty insane. Not only
Hmm.
like the art, but the powers. Turning those figments. Not only you play the figment and you something happens, you flip it, and then you have a whole ally.
Hmm.
And what you said about you have angels, you have heralds. These non-attack actions pump heralds specifically or angels specifically, and so you have to have the right stuff, and it can get kind of mismatchy. What my uncle used to say when he would like kick me and my brother's ass in chess, he's like, I put pressure on like certain squares. So like from a deck building perspective, you can like put pressure on like a certain thing. Like you can hone your focus in on like angels and angel pumps, or you can go like light angels, heralds, or like what's the right amount so that
Hmm.
when you draw those hands, it's like, oh yeah, like all this just like slaps, because those light cards have pretty powerful effects. People were complaining about kind of like how strong they were, and it's like what they have like a +4 instant pump and stuff like that. So you have to consider that Prism has 32 life, and you have to consider some of those cards don't block. So it kind of seems
Hmm.
like if a deck builder can kind of put that pressure on correctly, they can kind of exploit those really, really hefty, valuable cards and not draw any. Like if you draw 0 clunky hands, you might just be able to just like create a crazy board. I don't know. I haven't played the deck yet, but
Hmm.
that kind of like came to my mind as you were saying that.
Yeah, I've played just the one game. I did get a lot of insights during that game because you start to realize what works and what doesn't. I think the new Prism's going to want to run more blues because she's so resource intensive, like the Angels. One
Mhm.
thing I've heard is some people saying like, "Oh, the shadow demons aren't as powerful as the angels. Like they're like way less strong." And it's like, well, yeah, that's because the rune blades aren't the ones trying to summon them as their main
Mhm.
strategy. The thing about the angels with Prism though is their abilities are really strong. They're not easy to use though,
Mhm.
because you have to have like in order to flip them with Prism's ability, you have to pay to send a herald, hope they don't pop it. But let's say you're lucky and they don't pop it, and it does hit, and then you hope they don't block it out, and then it hits because it goes in the soul. That then lets your Empyrean activate Prism's ability for free. You flip over. You either grab a figment, then flip it over, or you flip it over. Oh, but the thing is, that Herald did not have go again, so you have to pay 2 into the Luminaris before it goes into the Soul,
Mhm.
in order to give it go again. And then you've already paid maybe one with a War Tune, so you pitched a blue. That's the best rate, is a War Tune with a blue, you use the Luminaris.
Mhm.
but that's 2 cards in hand, and now the angel's flipped, and you still need to pitch something else to attack with it. And their abilities only work if you already have cards banked into Prism Soul. So,
That's true.
like this Prism deck, really, it just kind of wants to attack with Heralds in the early game and then use Angels in the late game.
Mm.
But they're not nearly as bad. The biggest thing that I found, the strongest thing personally, at least for my one game, which is one game, but it was just the ability to go, oh shit, I can't block with this, yellow instant. Like the figments themselves, like, oh wait, I can pitch it, flip this one over because it's a once per turn instant on Prism's
Mm.
ability. I'm gonna flip it over and just ward 4 and save my life. So and it stops on hits. Like a snatch, pay 2 to just stop a snatch. That's
That's
you
good.
lose an angel, but even if that's all you're doing, it's that kind of fatigue, draw them out and make them run out of resources strategy.
That's interesting. Yeah, because yeah, people were worried about like an all gas version, but yeah, like you can really turtle up and kind of save yourself. So I'm very interested to see like how it's going to turn out, and
Mhm.
maybe there'll be multiple versions that kind of do well. So
I agree. I was gonna say I think a lot of things in Flesh and Blood, especially as we get more armor and weapons, and just it seems like they want to give us one hero can have multiple different strategies and things that it plays, which can make it very different, and they'll be better in certain situations. I do think Illusionist Dromai especially is the perfect example. She's got like 3 different main versions. You've got your aggro, the Empress Dromai, you've got the full dragon control, and then you kind of the mid range in between.
mhm.
Um, so it's quite a good look for Flesh and Blood having so much variety within each hero.
I know I'm focused on Runeblade still, and Viscera got stuff. Obviously, Vincett's getting stuff, and I'm pretty excited. I think Vincett's going to be pretty all right. I don't know if it'll be. It's no chain, but for good
Oh,
reason, right? But the new Runeblade cards look pretty good, and you still got Spellbound Creepers to do wacky things,
mhm.
and there's a couple of Blood Dead cards that you can play as instance when you lose health from Vincett's ability. So I think there's a lot of playground there for something more shell up and build rune chants like old school Viscerai, and then do like some rune gate
Looming
action
Doom.
point stuff, looming doom, and just kind of yeah. So there's that, and you can go aggro with it because you got Shadow Verser, like oh banish that, here you go, I'll banish this, go again. So pretty fun to dust off the Shadow Runeblade binder. I got my Carrion Husk and Art of Wars all ready to go in my binder, and it's gonna Dust Till Dawn has really just re-engaged my hype. It's a
Mhm.
supplemental set, but these cards seem pretty well thought out for the most part, and they've like really honed in on this like light and shadow dynamic, giving everyone some new tools, and these cards are pretty powerful compared to like the cards that were in Dynasty. Dynasty seemed to have like a low impact. It set a few
Mhm.
things up, but like the power level of these Majestics that we've been seeing so far, I think are slightly juiced. They're not like out of control, but I think they're pretty potent.
I agree. One thing that I find a little weird about Dynasty 2 is just not everything that we're like. For instance, Looming Doom kind of now seems like maybe it is a Vincent card. But like, is it really going to use the card? I'm not really sure she is going to use it. Maybe it becomes a deck somewhere, but and it's kind of the same like with Prism, right? Is Dynasty gave us the original Soraya that works with Spectral Shields, but that actually feels way more built for the original Prism because it just doesn't function that well with the new stuff. And actually, somebody had pointed out to me that the original Soraya is on both sides a Light Illusionist card. So when it's flipped, the Luminaris, the original Luminaris, gives it go again. However, the new angels are Light Illusionist on the Figment side, but they're only light, like they're just light on
Hmm.
the angel side, meaning that the original Luminaris cannot give them go again, which I found was pretty interesting. I think they're trying to, fail safe for other formats like Blitz, because I think in Blitz, if you could do original Luminaris and all those angels, that'd be a little nuts.
Hmm.
Um, but Yeah, I'm very excited for this set. I agree that I think there's a lot more potency in this set than there was in Dynasty. Outsiders was also a pretty potent set,
It was.
but for me personally, I'm glad that some people had a lot of fun with it. Outsiders was probably one of my least favorite sets that was ever released for the game,
Mm.
just because I wasn't super into the theme and the style of it. And I didn't really care for any of the heroes that much, so it's like it just didn't personally excite me all that much.
Yeah. Outsiders draft was pretty fun.
Mhm.
I liked playing in like the road to national drafts, and the sealed was decent. So they I think they had the sealed game in mind when they made that set, and it ran very well. It like ran better than Tales of Aria sealed, for example.
Oh yeah.
So kudos to them on that. But yeah, you got some, you got the Codex cards in there, and it's that assassin though. It put Azuri back on the, or it put Azuri on the map, and
Mhm.
as the format evolved, Azuri was able to do some decent things in organized play, and so outsiders, yeah, it was overall pretty good. But like you said, you came in around Monarch time, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I came in end of Monarch, and then Tales of Aria came out, and that Tales of Aria was like my first sealed play.
Same.
Um, cool. So I latched on the chain and I played that to the ground. So I'm pretty hyped about Dust Till Dawn. I'm not sure how much I'll physically buy and how much I'll just have to buy singles, because there seems to be it's like another one of those like heavy majestic sets. So like you buy a few boxes, you never know. Like if I'm looking for shadow stuff and I get like just hella light warrior majestics, I'm just gonna be like, dang it, I have to like trade these or like do some work now.
Mhm.
But I do like the chase of the cold foils, and the marvels look insane, like brutally insane. So that'll fetch a pretty penny. And kudos to LSS again. Every set, when you buy it, they give you like a new experience. Like they always sprinkle in like little goodies that you can find in the back of the pack, and alt hearts and cold foils and stuff. So I'm pretty excited from that perspective for Dust Till Dawn. What do you think about opening this set?
I man, if I had the means to, I would open up like 60,000 cases. Like I'd just go nuts with it, right? Like if I think most of us would say that if it's not so much of a level of excitement, it's just a level of how excited am I versus how much money do I have to spend.
Mhm.
I'm probably gonna get like a case at most, and then just buy the singles that I need because I would like to marvel out the Prism deck. I mean, but I'm not in a huge rush to do it either. I'll probably get the regular Majestics first, just so I have them. I can play it.
Mhm.
Like I literally printed all everything out so I could play it. But I'm not gonna obviously stroll up to an armory with that. It's not exactly legal. So, but I don't know if I'm gonna go completely balls to the wall with it though with Prism. Just because I also really like Rune Blades. I like Vincent. Looks really cool, and I really
Mhm.
like Viserai. I know you're a huge Viserai fan as well, and
Definitely.
he got some upgrades. That new specialization is pretty good.
Mm.
I like the idea of using it with the spellbound creepers and just giving go again to one of your attacks, and then being like, oh, by the way, that was like a spellblade strike, so I'm now gonna play this 3 cost attack for free.
Mm.
2 or 3 costs. Just here we go. I think it's quite good. But I just find the thing about Prism is it's just going to come down to, does it have the same problems as Dromai, where I'm not going to play it super competitively if there's just some matchups that just feel unwinnable. Like if Levia becomes something where like New Prism just can't do anything because you have to hit with the Heralds. So
Mhm.
it's like if they pop even one and then you just don't have the resources to send more, it's like, well, you're just on a losing battle because you have to hit, get the figments, flip them over. So we'll see where everything lands. But if Prism is too polarizing, I'm probably going to end up playing a Rune Blade competitively because I find they have their bad matchups, but there's no like 80-20 type games. They're more like 40-60 at worst, I find, with Rune Blades.
I agree with that statement. And we still have Briar around. Briar's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Briar's still
Rosetta.
here. We have Rosetta Thorn. I think Briar can do fine. I think Viscerai is always already pretty good. He wasn't crazy. He's pretty solid. But you give them cards like the new specialization to pull some more tricks out of your sleeve, and it's a blue block 3, I believe. So
I think it's a red block 3.
okay, red block 3, fine, that's fine. And
But it's
then
zero. That's
yeah,
the benefit. It's zero.
free.
So spellbound creepers.
Yep, pitch a blue with 2 cost tag. Yeah, creepers that hit him with something 2 for 6 or 3 for 7, even runic reclamation or something. That'd be sick.
Mhm.
But those two are sitting pretty, and then Vince said we'll just have to figure out and see. The new Shadow Runeblade cards look good. The Rune Gate attacks, there's good rates. There's a 1 for 4 go again with the Rune Gate on it. I'm pretty excited about that one. Bounding Demigod is going to be really good in Vin's set. It's free, and you're going to be playing non-attack actions to activate the hero ability anyway. So that's good to go. And they printed a new non-attack action specifically for Bounding Demigod. So there's going to be a lot of cheap, easy tricks, a lot of zero cost non-attack actions, and with Rune Chance, you're zero cost attack actions with the Rune Gate ability. So we got some cool stuff going ahead for Rune Blades, and I'm slightly excited for Warrior, even though it still seems a little undertuned. I like the axe; it's kind of cheesy, but I do like the axe, and it could be fun. But I think the courage tokens are a plus, literally, and the new gauntlets look cool. The new Light Warrior chest looks kind of cool. You can load your soul on defense. So there's some cool stuff there. I might check that out if I have extra time, but there's so much to do with Runeblade already, and I still got Kano sleeves up too, just in case. Kano doesn't change; it's just the same thing, and you can just blast them out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of facing Kano personally for that reason. But hey, Runeblade's just got the worst new legendary that's ever been printed.
Oh
We
yeah,
got the new Runeblade chess piece. Have you seen a little bit about that going on?
yeah. Oh, it's so plain. Oh, it's bad.
It's the same people that say Skullcap is just like completely useless nowadays, as if blocking 3 isn't still a
For
really
real.
strong ability on an equipment piece.
Like you got to realize that that's a chess piece. You also have 3 other pieces to combine with that. And when you have a temper 2 and an AB2, then you can just run your quill hand. You have AB3 right there, and you're sitting pretty against Arcane. And before we had no rune robe, so it's just like specifically upgrading that. So it's good. It's good. It's a solid sideboard piece, and the AB2 is great in a lot of matchups.
Not even, yeah, like don't get me wrong, AB2, I think Bolander is like the perfect deck that is good against. Actually, you know what? I think I think it's like Diabolic some Carapace or something. I think it's Diabolic Carapace is what it's called. But I think it's actually unironically really good against Rosetta Thorn. Just
Yeah.
because it's got the AB2, it stops other rune blades. Because how many times have you played against a rune blade and it's Vis or even Briar, and you're like, I'm just bringing AB1 to block some chip damage, and I'll just try and kill him before the Rosetta puts me in a corner. And then you always get into that position where you start getting down to like 3 life, and you're like, shit, I literally have 3 turns, and then I'm dead.
Yep.
So it saves you from that. I can't understand people. Some people think it's really bad, and it's like, man, you guys really don't. They keep saying like, oh, tunic, and it's like, okay, well, maybe for heroes that might need it, but like, who's to say that Vincent, for instance, who's to say her curve might not need it, and that 3 block might be better in her, for instance, than the what you calls it, carrying husk. Like there are matchups you'll probably still want to run the carrying husk more than anything, but there will be some matchups where running the um what is it called? I keep losing Carapace is
Yeah.
going to be solid. Yeah, anytime you need that split block, it's
Exactly. Because if someone does have that split damage and you're running the carrion husk, they can use that split damage to get you those weird awkward life totals, so you're around that like 15 17 health, but at like 14 or less you'll lose it, so you kind of have to like end up blocking like a 2 or 3 power attack with it anyway. And then it has blood to it, so Yeah, it's gonna be perfect against split damage decks. Bolander, I think it's just like, yeah, you got the blocks for their 7 power attacks. You got the AB for their weapon and frost shenanigans. So it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I think it's also really because I think when people evaluate cards, I've heard that Ether Iron Weave is just strictly better, and it's like don't get me wrong, Ether Iron Weave is really good, but Ether Iron Weave gives you one on hit breakpoint block, like a snatch or something, gives you that +1 you need for a 3 block and that +1, and it gives you a one time, usually just a Rosetta Thorn, but sometimes it's something like a Rattle Bones or you get the 2 resource. But I find a lot of the times I sometimes use both, but half the time I just need one resource, and it's to finish the chain with a Rosetta Thorn on like a cash in turn with this.
Mm.
And what you're trading for the Carapace is instead of getting one on hit breakpoint and then kind of one slightly bigger turn, it's instead you're just getting 2 breakpoint blockers and the AB if you need it. So and that's still 2 really solid uses, and it's just different use than something like the Iron Weave.
That's true. And if you think about blocking a red snatch with like the armor and like a 2 block non-attack action,
An extra
and
mob
you can,
skies or
yeah, like
something.
you can still have a solid turn. Like you don't have to waste like your 1 attack blocking 3 in that situation. So there's definitely value in there, and yeah, it's matchup dependent, but there's definitely some big value in there. And these are the things that people have to think about. Flesh and Blood, it can be a long game, or at least there's important turns, and yeah, when you have the solution to block with 1 card and keep a good grip and let it rip, you can turn the game around, and that's how wins are made. So
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, it's just so cool, man. I haven't played in like a month.
Really?
Yeah.
I have barely played this month. I've traveled twice. I went and visited girlfriend down in Florida, and then went up to my dad's this weekend. So like I've played a few games in the past month, and that's it.
Mm. Yeah, I went to the first armory in June, and I brought Royal and I went 3-0, and then I lost the finals. And I was like, dang, but that was cool. That was fun. Lost the Lexi race, got to 9-2, but I lost at 0. So it was a Codex of Frailty, 0 cost
Always
arrow
is.
situation. Yeah. And it was fun though. I was just like, yeah, I'll just go the race strategy. The game was over in like 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I'm just gonna race because I just watched that Zach Bunn podcast he did, or the deck tech he did. And he's like, oh yeah, against Lexi, I just run the quill hand and I just face race. I'm like, that sounds fun. I'll just do that. Round 4 of an armory. Let's go. But didn't work out. But I think that strategy would be more viable with these new tools.
Maybe, yeah.
I just want to like use Spellbound Creepers like 3 times in a game. I need to use them more. Once per game is good, but I just want to like. I think Vincent can abuse it because of the guaranteed at least 1 leak. So you'll be doing
Yeah,
arcane
maybe.
damage, and
I
you
think.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say. I think what Vincent will do best is she can freely kind of use the first one whenever she kind of wants to, and then can keep it alive until the second time that she like really needs it to have a turn.
That's true. Yeah, I'm just excited to see what kind of pressure you can build, and the rune chance plus the rune gate coming out of the banish zone for free, dealing that arcane damage. And these attacks are good rates. 1 for 4 go again. There's like 2 for 6s in there. All of them block 3. I like that new one that if you've lost life, you banish your both players banish their arsenal. I think one of them is, and then the other one's like you banish the top card of your deck at the end of your turn. So
Mm-hmm.
there's some cool stuff, and I'm excited to play the Dimensional Rune Gate from Monarch, the rare. I used to play that in my chain deck, but it's a pay 1.
Oh
You look at
yeah.
the top 3, and then you banish the top card. And if it's got a card with Blood Dead, you deal an arcane damage with Go again. So that can be a cool creepers thing as well. And yeah, you can find that perfect card with the right amount of. If you have like one rune chain, you can find your one rune gate. If you have two rune chains, you can find your two rune gate. Hopefully off the top. Um, so yeah, it's just fun to like play with the top of your deck during a game, play with your Banish Zone during a game, manipulating graveyard with Rattlebones. Even like you can
Mhm.
play with all of these zones plus your equipment. Uh, there's gonna be a lot to do and a lot of testing to be had, and I think that a lot of good players can have significantly different decks with the same characters and be doing top eights and stuff like that.
Yeah, man, I find that Runeblade is such a perfect puzzle to crack. Every time I play them, well, everybody but Briar. I don't know what it is, but I'm not a huge fan of Briar, but I really do like Vis and Chain, and I don't hate Briar, but out of the three, she's become like my least favorite. Even though she's the one that I was first most interested in, I've recently played Chain and Blitz. How the hell did that thing ever happen? Like, holy shit. Turns out getting free extra cards for no reason is stupid. Turn
Yep.
three, oh, I'm already getting, oh, cool, I hit one card, but it's like I'm now up a card. Especially in Blitz where they're so short of turns. It's like one Art of War turn, you're just done.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's great. But I, I'm so excited to see what people do with this game. I really think that creativity amongst the highest end is actually pretty good. Like the best players are pretty creative, but I don't know if that's trickled down too much into the main like player base because it feels like if I'm being honest, Flesh and Blood is a pretty damn difficult game to play and build decks for. So I don't blame. I even just like will look at a bunch of decks and kind of mash them together as an amalgamation and like run most of the same stuff that everybody else is running. So I'm no better in that department. But I'm really interested, especially as we keep getting like different two-handed weapons, different one-handed with like the offhand, and then you get so you get your flail and your grimoire, which like the grimoire just at one time lets you banish it and make an eloquence token. It's like it's just a one-time thing that you get once in the game and that's it. But looking at the power level of Vincent's card, it's like, do you really need? Because I got him pulled up here. It's like, do you
Mhm.
really need a really super powerful weapon? I think the answer is probably still going to be yes. Still might play Rosetta, but
Yeah. There's so many options, and oh, there was something you said that I was going to go off of, but it's just like I lost it.
was it the creativity?
Oh, it was Briar. It's about Briar.
Brian.
Yeah, the thing. Yeah, I like what you said because like, I kind of feel the same way. Briar feels less rune bladey just because the high level tournament friendly decks they have so much generics. Your attacks are
Mhm.
generic. You have generic non attack actions. You're not taking advantage of like Malrian Skies. Like that's like a rune blade card. It's using much more generics and less rune blade things. They have elemental rune blade, channel mount heroic, yada yada, but
Mhm.
it just feels different. And when you don't draw the channel mount heroic, it's just like, what am I doing with my life? So with these other rune blades, you can or can't see um, the one that doubles your rune chant creation, Mortartide.
Yeah, Mordred.
So you may or may not see that, but you're always going to see your 9 Malverian Skies. So your deck's going to be pretty vibing. I'm just really curious to see how Vincent stacks these action points. We use creepers to put out a time snap potion at instant speed. You never know when you get like few rune chants built up. You do a rune gate, crack a time snap. Instant freaking read the runes, do like a banger rune gate 3 attack. After that, just do something crazy like 13 damage plus whatever rune chance that is. Like there's stuff you can do, man. I'm pretty pumped. I think this set is definitely going to get me back into like that brewing and brainstorming and like that just yeah, that theory crafting. And I've been playing a lot of Diablo 4, so like I've been like pretty consumed with like, tweaking the build and stuff like that of like
Mhm.
my necromancer and barbarian, but I think this set'll bring me back to that and like Flesh and Blood, where it's like, yeah, there's so much tweaking you can do, and it's a wide open play space right now.
Absolutely. I think that's a very underrated thing about new formats is especially when nobody has it figured out. So there's no consensus, and it's like you actually do feel kind of free because like once a couple people have figured out competitive decks at even an armory, you kind of feel obligated to play something good. You don't really go with your jank deck that you just toss together unless you really don't care, but usually you do. You want to like actually have a chance. So it'll be fun though to hang out with the guys and try out all the new stuff and just like see if I can make a deck work and slowly but surely improve it. Because there's something else that I've really thought about too, and that's nice when a new set comes out. Is a lot of the times you'll open up some product, you'll get a good chunk of the cards, and you'll maybe buy enough of the stuff that you'll build like. You'll use a lot of your old Monarch cards, and you'll build a Vinset deck that doesn't quite have everything that it needs from the new set. But it's like I just want to play the hero. I got the rares and the commons, a few random majestics, some of the old stuff. I'm going to throw a deck together just to start playing it, right? Because you really want to play it. And then over the course of the next few weeks, you pick up the singles for it as you see them on the market as the prices go down because they'll always be high. And you get that rush every time you get those two new cards for the deck. You're like, oh, I can't wait to try these. And, I think that something gets lost because a lot of the times people will just like pick a deck and they'll just buy everything. They'll buy 99% of the deck, maybe not the legendaries, but they'll just buy it all, have it shipped to them, and be like, wow, that was a one-time fun experience. But when a new set comes out, everybody experiences, unless you open up thousands of boxes or whatever, or I guess hundreds. But everybody has kind of that same experience of you kind of have to build your way up to your deck, or at least most people do, which is kind of cool, and it's a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, I remember my first armory. I played Rhinar, and
Ooh,
I had
nice.
I had yellow sink belows in my deck because I was like that thin on brute cards, and I think I had like one Blood Rush Bellow, and it was pretty jank, but it was fun. And I was I was like I was such a brute because I was just like arsenaling a card. I'm just gonna use all my cards in my hand all the time. I don't need to arsenal anything. And I was like, oh well, actually the arsenal can set up some pretty cool stuff. I should probably get better at the game. But
Mhm.
Flesh and Blood is hard. I don't think I won a game for like 3 weeks, and you just gotta, it's like jujitsu. Like you just get your ass kicked a little bit, figure it out, and then you start to realize that you start to leave damage on the table or you leave defense on the table. Oh, I lost the game and I still had like one block on my helmet and one block on my boots. Like I need to like use all this stuff and just get experience with the game. And it's really satisfying when you like win a close game, all your equipment's flipped down, everything's blown up, like you just went down to the nitty gritty and like you came out on top, and those are some pretty satisfying games.
Mhm.
And now that there's no more Oldham, this format's like it was decently fast with Oldham still in it, right? Like there wasn't too many, well, other than like Oldham Dromai, like the
Mhm.
2.5 hour slugfest. But it's a pretty fast format. Like games are happening and ending in the time limits, and tournaments are moving. Now that Oldham's gone, we got some new heroes coming in. For potential for fatigue, I think fatigue will exist, but it won't be obvious and straight up like it was with Oldham. Like you mentioned, the
Mhm.
Angels and the Ward. Between Spectral Shields and all this Ward stuff, maybe something cool is there. Ninja still exists, and Katsu got some decent support in Outsiders, and Fi is kind of still hanging around with even with some Kadashi Fi.
Mhm.
So you never know. And then we got Brute coming back, Illusionist coming back pretty hard. I think things are gonna be moving, but I don't know. Do you think there'll be like anything like degenerate or like tournament busting?
Not a whole lot screams out to me yet with Dusk Till Dawn, but I will say I think one of the things about this set is it's a pretty complex set, it feels. Like even just like looking at all the things, like for instance, I've got the Runeblade stuff pulled up here, and it's like Requiem for the Damned has one, two, three different four, like has four lines of text, and a lot of them have 3 to 4 different lines of text. So there's just like a lot of things to remember, a lot of things to pay attention to, a lot of ways that cards would interact with each other as well as with older cards. So I think it's very difficult to properly for me at least, to properly analyze how good the set truly is. At least theme and flavor wise, a 20 out of 10. Like one of the
Hmm.
coolest looking sets we've ever gotten.
I would
I think a
agree.
lot of people can agree that the art, it just set after set, it gets it more and more insane. Like some of the Shadow Runeblade stuff, never mind the angels. The angels we all know are gorgeous, but like the Widespread Ruin, Funeral Moon, Requiem for the Damned, Oblivion, Widespread Annihilation, and Destruction, like all of these cards are just unbelievable in their art style. And it's like, I just want to play it so I can look at the cards while I'm playing them. Like that's what I want to do. I want to look at the art and just get engrossed with the world of this game as I'm playing them.
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly thematic. These like light versus shadow matchups that are inevitably going to happen, and they've really upped like the brain power of this set. The numbers are relatively on par with what we've seen lately. We have like a new 13 attack Hydra, which is pretty badass. Um, so yeah, I think LSS is saying, okay, our players are getting a little bit better. Let's get a little bit more adventurous. And now we're manipulating the banish zone more. We're using instant speed more. We're searching our deck, summoning things, flipping things. We're keeping track of not only our own life, but the ward effects. Is any damage leaking through? Like, what do I gotta do? Like, what's the priority here to stop this, to soak this up? How do I manage my blood debt? What do I gotta do? Which card do I have to banish from my hand for this thing for this thing to happen? So the brain power is definitely up, but the payoffs are very solid for people who set them up or YOLO that perfect thing off the top of their deck. Uh, which is something I do like in a game of Flesh and Blood when I'm playing someone, myself or someone else throws something down. It's like, okay, if I banish this attack action, if I banish like a zero cost attack action, it's going to be a really just crazy turn. And then like you like flip over like just exactly what you not need. And you're like, well, there you go. Or when it does hit, you're like, I'm juiced up right now.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree fully. I like that Flesh and Blood rewards, especially different play styles, because I feel like with certain heroes, people get stuck on a specific play style for it or specific cards that need to be used. But I think the game is I feel like there's none of us have fully truly cracked the code with Flesh and Blood. Like there's gotta be like it just feels like such a deep game that like even again when I was playing Prism, like my strategy was to kind of try and go face with the heralds and do all this, these bigger turns and keep up the pressure because my opponent was playing Bolt. And then he has a few poppers, but not that many, right?
Mhm.
But I ended up playing a totally different strategy at near the end there. But I wonder if like for instance, playing the figments and then flipping them to the angels, I ended up using like three or four of them as literally just I hit with the herald. Okay, I've searched him out. I've got a few on the field. Oh crap, I can't like block this damage. I'll flip over an angel with Prism's ability and get rid of a card and soul, and then just save myself the damage. And just that utility alone, kind of, I was like, wow, like these are. I'm not attacking with them. I'm not getting to use them for the cool abilities they have, but like it let me survive long enough for my opponent to run out of cards. So it's like, hey, like you learn some little thing every time you play the game, and I personally just question myself all the time of like, should I be trying different strategies? Like, am I just playing the game wrong? Am I not thinking deeply enough about the ebbs and flows of Flesh and Blood, and like maybe coming up with a new style of the way that I approach, the whole matchup, and setting up for a late game more properly?
Yeah, that was fun when I played Chain. The
Hmm.
first time I saw this tournament winner, I forget his name, but it was during the Monarch format. He would be counting his chain deck like every turn. Every turn he'd like count, and he was counting like, okay, I draw these four, I banish these two, I draw these four, I banish these three, I draw these four, I banish these four, and he was setting up like the perfect pitch stack against like a fatigue prison matchup or something like that. And then when he got to the end, he had that beautiful, like 6 action point, 6 soul shackle, like 7, just beautiful crescendo of actions and attacks. And I was
Mhm.
like, that is big brain flesh and blood, being able to map the game out and tuck things away and know that I'll survive just long enough to have this perfect hand at the end, and it's just gonna blow the game wide open. Uh, but as a new player, you just kind of have to like put your time in and just like fall in love with the hero, or kind of like play a little bit of everything, and just kind of be like, wow, like there's so much to this game. I really need to like think about this character and like just go deep and get that high level understanding. And you can understand why you lose, understand why you win. And even in armories, I like losing, especially like if the game's like really good. It's like, wow,
Mhm.
like that game was really good. And like that last hand, I couldn't do anything about the last hand he had. Like, kudos to him for building that deck and having those cards. Like, that was really good. And then you can say, like, oh, yeah, my deck was great, but this just happened. Or, yeah, I really thought this card was good, but I love it. Like, I'm attached to this card, but in the game, it actually doesn't work that well. I have to take it out, unfortunately. Like, I feel that way with that defense reaction, the 0 for 3, but if you deal an arcane damage to them, it blocks for 4. I used
Oh,
to,
Sigil of Suffering.
Essential Suffering, yeah. I used to play that all the time against Fi. I would play the yellows too. I'd have 6. And I would play it against Fi, and I was just like pinging him, pinging him, pinging him, pinging him, and it made a big difference in the game. But against a lot of other matchups, it was just kind of like clunky, or because you want non-attack actions and actions, and then you get like a defense reaction or two. You're like, this hand can only do like 6 instead of like 13 plus.
Hmm.
So it's your sight set on Runeblade and the Marvel Angel deck. You
Yeah,
gonna
I'll
be
be playing Prism likely if she's solid and if she okay. If Prism isn't useless against Guardian and Brute, like she can actually still have a game plan. I'll probably mostly be playing Prism, but honestly, I'll probably jump between Prism, Vis, and maybe Vincent if I like the deck. I'm gonna build, Prism and Vincent. But I'm the kind of person where like I'll play one hero a lot for a month, then I'll play another hero a lot for a month or so, or a few weeks, and like I'll jump between a few different heroes, and I'll sometimes play a random one. I'll also hang out with friends and just play random stuff too. I'm not looking to be a hyper competitive player, so it's like if I start getting bored with a certain matchup or with a deck I'm playing, I'll just set it aside for a few weeks and play something else. Like it's like even though yeah I'm not improving at that specific deck, if it's making me not want to play, then it's like I'm just gonna set it aside for a bit and be fine with it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all just about having fun, collecting the
Mhm.
cards, making the content, playing the game. I'm gonna go to the Calling Vegas. I'm gonna have a good time because I'm in Vegas no matter what. If I win, great. If I go like 2-4 or worse, great. I'm in Vegas. I'm having a good time hanging out with people, side events.
Mhm.
But I like to consider myself decently competitive, and I do jujitsu all the time. So like I want to win on the mats, and I want to win in the armories. And my first armory win still eludes me. Lucas keeps beating me in the finals every time I make it. Every time I go 3-0, but I'll get my first armory wins soon. Dot dot dot. But that's my goal. I think I want to take a room blade or a shadow room blade to the promised land, get my first armory win, and then August 25th is gonna be here before we know it. Like time's been going so fast. Like
Mhm.
June seemed to was like it was like 3 days, and then it's July now, and yeah, it's crazy. But I got my sights set on that, and then I think I'll just keep it local. Oh, St. Louis is getting a battle hardened in October.
Nice.
Yeah, Forge and Fire. That's the place I play on Thursdays when I can get a babysitter. Uh, they're getting the battle hardened St. Louis, so I don't have to travel for that. It's in my backyard, so
There you go.
definitely gonna play in that. So I think it's going to be a fun year. And we're getting 2 draft sets in a row at the end of the year and the beginning of next year. And draft sets are just so exciting. And
Hmm.
Dust Till Dawn almost has draft set vibes with how refined these class cards are. We've seen a couple of generics. Generics are starting to sprinkle in here or there. I'm curious to see how many generics there's going to be.
Let's see. I'll scroll down a little like behind the scenes. We've got right now just Censor, Hold the Line, Warmonger's Diplomacy, and Poison the Well.
Hmm.
There's still looks like 21 to 25, and then I don't know if those are going to be generics or not, but they're next to the Spectral Shields, and then we got 227 and 229 still coming.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, there's a lot less. But no, I agree fully. This feels like an actual set. This doesn't feel like Dynasty. Like, to be honest with you, Dynasty just didn't hit. I'd say Dynasty's probably the worst set. And not it. Listen, Dynasty was a good set. It was still it was still decent. Maybe not a great set, but it was cool. Had the marvels. It had some good playable stuff. But I feel like it's like kind of like Everfest, where some of the stuff will become more playable in the future, like as time goes on.
Mhm.
But like, let's be real, compared to Dusk Till Dawn, or even like Crucible of War, or Dynasty just doesn't do it. It doesn't have 13 power Shaden Death Hydras. Okay,
Yeah,
so Dynasty just wasn't nearly this cool. God, this set's gonna be so good. This set
it's
is it just thematically, the art, the imagery, like even just some of the cards. Like, did you see the Scowling Flush Bag, the new helm for Brute, the Intimidate one? It's
yeah,
like, what a great card. You can either run the Crown of Providence to fix your own turns, or run the Scowling Flesh Bag for when the Fire Visceri player is having that big go off turn to the Lexi player. You can be like, actually, no, I'm just gonna block with this. You have to lose a card. There goes your whole power turn, because now you can't. You were gonna deal 23 damage. Now it's 13. Okay, cool. That's a lot off my back.
yeah. That one random card can just
Oh, that was your blue pitch. Oh, sorry.
so much value, and yeah, it can thwart the pitch, it can thwart the key non-attack, it can thwart the follow-up attack.
Hmm.
It's gonna be really good, and yeah, Brute and Shadow Brute came out decently well, and I'm excited to see people abuse or at least use to the full potential, like the new like Shadow Rush Bellow, where it's a blue, and then yeah, they banish their whole hand, and then however many cards have blood, you draw that many cards. So YOLO some scab skins, get 3 action points, banish 3 freaking blooded attacks, and just like draw 3 blues and be like, ah,
Hmm.
like I don't know, man. I'm kind of excited. I kind of like Brute has cool vibes. They're kind of satisfying to like pull off the combos and stuff. But man, there's so much to do, so much to see. Oh, that's
So what's wrong with taking the back streets? I thought the exact same thing when you
oh
said
my
that.
god. I
Yeah,
guess.
just looking through. Also, apparently they're giving us the heralds. We're gonna have the extended art non-foils in this set, which I think is really cool, because I have the protections and the rebirths, because they were the ones LSS sent out.
Mhm.
I don't have any of the others. And sure, they're not foil, but just getting the EA's non-foil will still be cool.
That's fun. See, they're just throwing more treats at us.
Exactly.
There's always more treats to open, and yeah, I'm definitely like I definitely want a case just to see what I YOLO into, you know.
Hmm.
Cold foil this, cold foil that, extended art this, Marvel this. Uh I was yeah, so Vincent got our demon ally and Levia has her demon ally. So
Hmm.
and Chain had his. So yeah, the shadow people get their one dude. Light gets their many different angels. I wanted to touch on this like Levia redeemed and Levia consumed double-sided token thing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it here. I was actually thinking the same thing.
That kind of
I
goes
see redeemed. I don't see the consumed here.
that kind of goes back to earlier about like the brain power. Like a new player reads that card and they're like, so what? Like, what is this? Like,
Hmm.
uh, what's it? Huh? And then a more experienced player is like, okay, damn. Like, so if my blood debt, blood debt takes one at a time. So Man San touched on this. Blood debt takes one at a time. So if you're at 14 health and you have like 6 blood debt to take, you take the first one, bada bing, bada boom, you flip to consumed, and then you like turn the rest face down or whatever, and or you don't take blood debt, the remainder of that blood debt that turn, or you're in a situation where you're kind of Levia redeemed as so you choose either the consumed or the redeemed, and so the consumed has 13 life, the redeemed has 8 life. And the redeemed does not suffer blood debt at all. So like there could be decks and archetypes where you want to have that crazy 10 blood debt cards ready to go, mix of non-attack actions and attacks,
Hmm.
flip over to redeemed. That 8 health, hopefully you can like leak 7 and keep like a grip of blues and just like do something nuts, kind of like Chain did back in the day. Or you can go to this consumed, use your banish zone more economically and have that 13 health and that blood debt soak. So Levia kind of just blew wide open too. And I don't think very many people are going to use these just because of like the amount of like familiarity you have to have with Levia herself. But plus, like, when do I want to be consumed? When do I want to be redeemed? Like, what do you think about all that?
I think it is probably one of the coolest innovations that we've seen in Flesh and Blood. The ability to change your hero based upon like certain parameters, especially for a hero like Levia. I think it is easily one of the most flavorful things I've seen in Flesh and Blood. Like I know Mansant has gone on before about why he loves Levia is because or Levia, sorry, he'll kill us if we call her Levia. Levia. Is how thematic she is and how flavorful she feels. And I really think they've nailed it. Like this Levia Redeemed, the actual like woman on this looks like I hate to compare it to Magic, but it looks like a Planeswalker card. And one of the
Mm.
benefits of Planeswalker cards is seeing this like iconic looking figure just perfectly framed on a card. It's the reason we love the hero cards. Like it just this is a very iconic looking card, this Levia Redeemed. Like, I think it looks unbelievably incredible. I think the mechanic is super cool, and I do think it is pretty big brained because yeah, you will have to
Mm.
make decisions while you run it. But I like that it just has to be in the sideboard, and then you can kind of do it whichever one hits first. At least that's my understanding of it. So hopefully this is something that we see people run. I don't see why you wouldn't. Like this just feels too good to not throw in because I mean, come on, you can save yourself at a low life total. That seems pretty good to me.
Yeah, the flexibility is the most important and underrated thing about winning games. You go to these tournaments, you're playing 8 rounds, 13
Hmm.
rounds, top cutting, games in a row. Having flexibility, not only against all these other heroes coming at you all day, but also just every game is a little bit different, right? And you have that flexibility to say, okay, this end game is a slam dunk if I redeem myself because I have these cards banished and I have some trickery to just overwhelm the defense, and I have this in the bag. Other games, I you have that flexibility to be like, oh, this is the perfect time to be Levy consumed. I have this kind of situation set up in my end game because this is kind of how the game shook down this time. So flexibility is king. I think I think opting or cards that kind of like look and rearrange the top 3 cards are pretty insane in a format like that. We got the banish zone to play with now. You never know what's going to pop out of there and
Hmm.
get fueled into there from the graveyard or from the top of the deck, etc. People are going to need to study up on these cards, man. Not only but to play them, but when you're sitting across from somebody they're like doing all this stuff, you need to know like what a threatening banished zone looks like for
Hmm.
these players. You need to know what a threatening like, oh, Prism has like 3 or 4 soul, like shit's about to fucking go down. You need to know what's going on your side of the field and your opponent's side of the field. And I'm pretty pumped, man. Like, I'm always pretty pumped about Flesh and Blood, but like, yeah, calling back to the Monarch and calling back to this Light and Shadow, the hype is real. I'm up, man. I'm ready to go.
I agree. I think one of the things that is very underrated and that really does it here is again the thematics of this. The cards all look gorgeous, right? The light illusion stuff is this beautiful figments like the stained glass type style, all the illustrious creatures getting slain, or then you have the heralds, and you move on to Bolton with the light warriors and their golden swords and flashing lights, and the light stuff looks amazing. Lumina Lance is one of the most beautiful looking cards in terms of its colors. Oh my god, I love that card. Cleansing Light with the open heavens shining down upon the angel, lay to rest, like just. And then you get to the shadow stuff, and it's this gruesome, like Hydra spitting fumes. You got these skittering snake-like centipedes and these grotesque, battlefield breakers, and then you get to Vinsets, and it's these like otherworldly, creatures, like these giant alien figures, and this blood red moon, and all the cryptic type stuff, and just I think people really underestimate, and even the warrior stuff, like the gold and white shield and the armor, and just people, I think, truly underestimate the value of the aesthetics. Like people connect with heroes not just based upon like the mechanics. I find more often I relate to heroes because I really like the way the cards look when I'm playing them. And it's like I can adapt to different strategies. Like some decks you just don't like, right? But it's like I have different strategies I like playing, and it's like my favorite tends to be the one I think looks the prettiest, or looks the nicest and is also the most fun. So I feel like thematically and just the emotions that this set evokes is just that kind of like classic dark and shadow, or sorry, light and shadow fantasy feel, which, like, again, like going back to Outsiders, still an amazing set, but like for me thematically, the setting of the pits and all the grotesque mutations and the codexes and all the rot and diseases, it just wasn't for me. I just wasn't like, I was like, I don't get excited to play any of these cards. I don't get excited to look at Riptide's putrid pus filled pimples. So, but like seeing Bolton and wielding a sword that's glowing, or Prism with her heralds, or Vincent with Nazareth, I think is what it's called. I don't know where the full art's gone here. I'm kind of scrolling all over the place, but it's just, yeah, or no, yeah, Nazareth, the Soul Harrower. Like just looking at some of these cards, it's like these stand out as just iconic art pieces, that will make this game, like, will make passerbys who are just walking by, they're going to see some people playing Flesh and Blood, they're going to look at your field, they're going to be like, oh, the armor looks cool, oh, the hero looks cool, and like, holy shit, like that's a full art angel or a dragon or this giant demon, or like these really cool looking cards. And it's that kind of thing that will get not only like regular players, but other people will go like, that looks cool, I want to play this game, like that looks cool.
That's true. And I couldn't agree more. Like when I had like Carrion Husk, Spell on Creepers, Grass of the
Mhm.
R9, just all shining at me, all purple and cool. I'm like, yes.
Mhm.
And Galaxy Black. But what's up? You good? Okay, no problem. It's all good. And then yeah, you got your shiny equipment, you got cold foil heroes, you got cold foil weapons, you're just like, I love going to like the big tournaments and just seeing the blinged out players, and they love the hero, they love the deck, they put the time in, they put the effort in, they take care of their cards.
Mhm.
Uh, like yeah, it's just what what bad can you say about like Flesh and Blood right now? Like they're just everything's just like moving along, and like everything's blowing up, everything's in the positive direction. Uh, support is high, hype is high. The game's pretty good. People complain about Lexi at a high level, but hey, they hit the bullseye bracers today.
Now people complain because they hurt Azalea too.
That's true. That was pretty much Azalea's only armor or only arms piece. So They have toxic
Yeah.
tips, I guess, but yeah, they'll have to figure
Well,
something
yeah,
out.
or hey, my Dynasty spoiler, Hornet Sting. They can
Yeah,
play that. I
yeah,
don't know how good it is. I don't think it's the best of cards, but it's playable.
yeah.
Blocks one and fixes the top of your deck once. So it's it's something.
It's something.
Um, Yeah, I mean I think there's always things to not everything about a game's ever going to be perfect, right? There's bans that are going to hurt you, there's cards that come out or leave that are going to feel bad. You're going to maybe your favorite hero is one that's not that good and it's going to feel crappy, or like I think one good criticism right now is that we still don't know where Worlds is. And that's a big trip. If it's going to be in Europe for a lot of people, that's a big trip and you need a lot of time to prepare. I wouldn't be surprised if it's gotten changed. Like for instance, if they wanted to hold it in France, they might now all of a sudden be like, well, France is on fire and there's riots everywhere. Maybe like we don't know what it's going to be like, in a few months, so maybe we shouldn't do it there.
That's
Stuff like this can throw a huge wrench into that when there's, and in fact, if I can just kind of go off on a branch here, another thought I've been having is you do see a lot of negativity online, and that's just the online space, right? But even in person, I've had a lot of friends who are like, "Oh, I'm a little tired of the game, or things just don't feel that great, or they're kind of burnt out." But I don't necessarily think it's even flesh and blood. I think it's like because I don't know what things are like for everybody, but here in Canada at least, and I know the States is kind of there too, life fucking sucks right now. Everything's gotten more expensive. Everybody's more isolated than before. Everything just feels weird after all the lockdowns, and it never quite felt right. The main thing again is like inflation, money is worth less, wages haven't gone up. So it's like you just have less time and energy and money to spend on a card game. Every little thing that, if you're miserable in real life, every little thing that happens in your hobbies is going to piss you off way more than it might normally, because you're just high strung. And I think that for a lot of people, life is just slowly but surely like grinding down on all of us and making us all a little more irritable and bitter. Except for you, you seem pretty chill.
I try, but yeah, everyone's feeling the squeeze. It's definitely like that here in the States too. And I
Mhm.
got two kids, and I'm, my free time is at a severe premium. But we make it happen, and I do agree. Getting slightly philosophical, there's that saying, "How you do one thing is how you do everything." So that kind
Mhm.
of translates into what you said. If life's kind of just beating you up a little bit, you're gonna be a little beaten up doing your hobby. Game doesn't go right. You're gonna be maybe more slightly on tilt than usual because like, oh, like I was just trying to chill and play, and I just got freaking owned or something. And but if you're coming in the right mind, and if you're just chilling, trying to learn, trying to play some games, you'll that's the little difference, right? It's state of mind, and it's just experiencing life, and then yeah, it might suck and it might be freaking, you know, things are more expensive. Like you go to the gas station, it's like, why is a candy bar $3? It's like this was used to
Mhm.
be like $1 after tax. Like, come on, man. I was gonna get 2 bags of chips for my kids to like have a snack with like a lunch.
Mhm.
And I like got like an energy drink and 2 bags of chips. And she was like, 18 something. I'm like, never mind about the chips, because they were like $6.50, $7 each for like a bag of
And
chips.
the
I'm like,
small bags, I'm assuming.
they were like the regular bags, but I was expecting like $4, like 4.50 maybe, but they were 7.
Yeah,
So
that's yeah. I was gonna say I can't even go in for any snacks in the gas station anymore because like our government just raised the carbon tax on gas by another, I think it was like 13 cents or something like that, and wants to raise it up to a total of 61 cents a liter. Like literally, like it's just and of course we're told that all these taxes are for the green, for climate change, to make green energy and all that stuff, but then miraculously the government just forgets about the part of actually building renewable energy sources like hydroelectric dams. They just don't do those things, even though that's what allegedly the money's going towards. Don't worry, don't question it though. We're gonna send it all overseas or pay, our rich friends and all that, like the gateway casinos. But and I really feel like that's where some of the negativity with Flesh and Blood is just genuine. Because listen, like as the game develops, and as things happen with it, or even if I've seen people come into the game, they play it for a little while and they realize, like, the game does ask a lot of its players. It is one of those games that's like, no, right now, if you want to play it, the casual scene's not so big. So it's like, really the main way to play it is kind of at least slightly competitively, or be okay with losing. But it does demand that you spend a lot of time and energy learning the cards, learning the strategies, learning the flow of the game, learning your deck, and like there's a lot to ask of a player before they can really start winning. There's not that many decks. Maybe Fi or Dash are good examples. But there's not that many decks that you can just pick up, and within the first like week of playing, you're already beating other people. It's like you've really got to practice at this game. And so I just think like as people's patience wears thin and as their wallets wear thin from the world around them, you look at a card game that, there's expensive cards, it makes them even more negative than they might already be just because everything sucks and it leaks through into every aspect of your life.
Yep. But as far as the existing community, it's very strong. Flesh
Mhm.
and Blood Twitter is ablaze. Spoiler season is in full swing, and there's just so many content creators now. There's so many good, dedicated, focused talent creators or content creators and cosplayers and
Mhm.
actual players. There's, you got the celebrities, you got the big names, and it's cool. I think it's only going to get bigger. And Dust Till Dawn is going to just be a good launching point for the summer, get us into that next draft set. So I think the summer and the fall is going to be a lot, just full of fun events, fun games, fun armories. This PVE thing is stirring a little bit more. So 2023 is going to be a good year, I believe. And hopefully things can improve and 2024 can just kind of keep going.
Mhm.
This game is looking long term, and the design space is kind of opening up. The brain power is increasing. Um, is there anything else you want to say? It's getting kind of late,
Mhm.
getting a little beat
Past
down.
my bedtime.
Yeah, you're
Um,
you're an hour ahead of me. So, is there anything else you want to say? This conversation's been really good. Dust Till Dawn hype is fun to discuss, and like we said earlier, you're a lot of fun to meet in San Jose, and I hope I can see you again at an event
Hopefully, yeah.
sometime soon. So, what do you want to leave with today?
I think I guess kind of touching on what we were just talking about with the negativity and all that. Um, I just want to be clear, like the game it's not dying, it's not going anywhere. Even if it's like it sucks when your LGS is starting to lose players, but that's kind of a natural thing of card games. Sometimes like your community is going to grow, it's going to shrink, and then maybe 6 months later it starts to grow again as a new set comes out and people get reinterested. A lot of trading card game players will enter for a short period of time and then they'll leave. I think, because sometimes you see occasionally stories popping up or you hear people going like, I'm kind of sick, I'm selling out, whatever. um and sometimes I just see popping up online, Twitter especially, and I mean it's Twitter, but they'll say stuff like, oh, the game is not doing so hot, if they don't fix this thing the game's going to die. But it's like it's all over the world. Japan's eating this shit up like crazy. People are clearly willing to buy it. They're clearly willing to engage. A lot of people love it, even if like your hype is low or your life, you're just not that into it. I think it's perfectly fine if you want to take a break. The game's not going anywhere, so you can leave for a few months, do something else, and then come back if you wanted to. I think overwhelmingly with Flesh and Blood, things are going great. And despite the few small issues here and there, I think the game is in a really good spot right now, and I'm personally just super hyped for this next set.
Hell yeah, man! Totally agree. I'm in the same boat as you. Ready to rock, ready to play, ready to jam some armories, ready to like just really get good at doing like tricky, cool things with these new cards they're giving us. So yeah, can't thank you enough for stepping on the podcast tonight, staying
Thank you
late
for
with
having
me,
me.
and yeah, appreciate you helping my content journey. You've been giving me tips on thumbnails and titles and everything of the sort. So you're a real one. I appreciate you, and hope to catch you again soon.
Yeah, this was really great. Thank you.
Appreciate it, brother.